So I'll admit it, I was completely wrong about Connor. A few months ago I made this video where I ranked the protagonist in Assassin's Creed, and guess where I placed Connor? I placed him as the third worst in the entire series. That means I ranked him lower than the likes of Arno, Evie and Jacob f***ing Fry. But since that disaster of a video, I've actually replayed Assassin's Creed 3 and let me tell you what a decision that was. Now that I am much wiser and older since the first time I played the game, which was over 10 years ago, this game has a lot more than meets the eye. There were parts of this game that I completely overlooked over a decade ago, but now that I've actually taken my time with Assassin's Creed 3, it was definitely something. Now I'm well aware that this game stands out as an outlier within the entire series. It's a game that a lot of people may regard as one of the weakest entries in the series. Sure, there might be a few imperfections sprinkled throughout, but when you delve deeper, Assassin's Creed 3 is a game that with each passing year, you come to appreciate the things you once took for granted. This video will not be one of those generic reviews where I talk about the story and the gameplay. Instead, I'm focusing on the aspects of the game that hit home for me, those moments that truly shone like beacons within this game. Oh, and before I get into it, do be sure to hit that subscribe button. Look how many of you watching this are not subscribed. So with that said, let's just jump right into it. Now let's talk about that prologue. Was it too long? Maybe. It was quite a lengthy prologue, I won't even deny that, but it was a prologue that was worth it. A lot of us love Haytham Kenway as a character, and for good reason too. He's a gentleman with a very charming personality to him. So without the lengthy prologue, our opinion of Haytham may not be what it is. We witness about 5 to 7 hours of playing as Haytham during the events of searching for an ancient temple. You see, at this point during the game, we had no idea that he was of course a Templar. We see Haytham build his order and recruit many people. The names of these people would consist of Charles Lee, Benjamin Church, Thomas Hickey, John Pitkin and William Johnson. These characters were all introduced to us with the intention of making it seem like they would be characters we'd resonate with, especially Charles Lee. That man is the definition of switching up completely. We first meet Charles Lee when Haytham arrives in Boston, and from first impression you think that he's just a lapdog with no leadership. Whilst that may be true in some ways, later on in the game it could not be any further from the truth. Charles Lee to me is what a villain should be like in a video game, manipulative and a monster that was portrayed incredibly well. You'd think that Charles Lee at the very beginning of the game was not capable of burning an entire village and almost snapping the neck of a very young Connor. The prologue also showcases to us Ezio, who I won't be attempting to pronounce her full name, and she would be Haytham's lover. We witness their relationship start as well as the birth of Connor. Well, we don't actually see the birth, but you know what I mean. The real shock comes right at the end of the prologue where we witness Haytham induct Charles Lee into the Order. However, at that point during the game, they want us to think that it was to the Assassin Brotherhood. But the real shock comes from the fact that it's the Templar Order. And from here is where the prologue ends, and the game shifts to the modern day, which I'll talk about more later in this video. Anyway, after the modern day part, the game then shifts to a young Connor, and it's kind of like a prologue in a prologue. We first witness Haytham's beginning journey to Boston, and now we witness Connor's beginning journey to redemption. From here is where the game becomes more centered around Connor, and the events of Assassin's Creed 3 opens up. Speaking of Connor, I admit I had him all wrong, from his backstory and personality to his growth as an adult, and I think I finally understand why. You see, the last time I played Assassin's Creed 3 was over a decade ago when I was just a young child. Back then, my understanding of a video game was quite basic, and I didn't really pay much attention to the depth of a character or the stories and significance of what Connor did. I mean, could you even blame me? But now, in 2023, I'm a fully grown adult, and revisiting Assassin's Creed 3 has allowed me to truly appreciate the entirety of Connor's character. It's safe to say he's just a very misunderstood protagonist. Connor is by no means a character like Ezio Auditore, who's more privileged and indulged. The fact that we witness Ezio have an entire trilogy and then the series moves on to Connor means that there's some pretty big boots to fill. Connor grew up without knowing his father, and he tragically lost his mother too during the attack on his village when he was just a child, and this came at the order of Charles Lee, who we know was nothing more of a lapdog during the prologue. I don't know about you, but hearing that whole "what's your name" scene play out gave me goosebumps.
What is your name?
Charles Lee. Why do you ask?
So I can find you.
Connor possesses this somewhat remarkable ability to blend into the treetops and efficiently hunt like a complete natural. Yet besides the Native American setting of Connor's heritage, he's completely fascinated and amused by the sight of seeing the city of Boston, much like seeing a child in a toy shop. He's not at all a protagonist that has aspirations for power, but rather he acknowledges the importance of safeguarding his village and his people. The perfect example of this is the aftermath of when he eliminates William Johnson. You can clearly see the impact that it had on him.
I thought it might bring clarity or instill a sense of accomplishment, but all I feel is regret.
Throughout the entire game, you witness Connor's heartfelt loyalty to his friends and family. This loyalty is particularly evident during the Homestead missions, where he consistently goes out of his way to aid and protect his friends. And speaking of the Homestead missions, let's talk more about that. The main development of Connor's character comes in the form of the Homestead content. It's content that is of course skippable, but you'd be a complete idiot if you did skip over it. And that's exactly what I did 10 years ago when I first played Assassin's Creed 3. But when I replayed the game recently, I made sure to take my time with the Homestead stuff to truly see what it was about and how it would showcase Connor as a character. The concept of the Homestead is very aligned to the setting of Assassin's Creed 3. As the US starts to take its shape, a smaller and less scaled version of this is what the Homestead is. It's set atop Achilles' estate, and we witness Connor actively take part in reshaping and rebuilding a new settlement. You have the chance to recruit various tradesmen who would reside on your property. This would include a tailor, a hunter and some farmers who'd all form into a diverse set of characters that all have great missions behind them. These amazingly crafted missions that not only provide insights into their backgrounds but also provide you with a rewarding outcome. What I love about it is that the lives of these characters unexpectedly intertwine and the missions take on an almost soap opera like quality, adding a lot of depth to the narrative of this game. Throughout these Homestead missions, whether it's the standard tasks of defending against enemy invaders, searching for missing people, or even assisting Miriam in preparing for her wedding, Connor's personality becomes increasingly apparent, and it's why I keep saying I was wrong about Connor. Honestly, if you're watching this and you haven't played through any of the Homestead stuff in Assassin's Creed 3, then you're truly missing out. To me, experiencing these missions for the very first time left me quite fascinated with Connor more than anything. The game does such a great job of showcasing the more softer and personal side of Connor. These Homestead missions not only showcase Connor, but they also showed the remarkable character development of all of the Homestead characters that we meet. The personality of Connor during these Homestead missions was something that I felt was very missing from the actual main story of the game. If you played through Assassin's Creed 3 solely focusing on the main narrative, it's understandable if you didn't connect with Connor's character. However, if you delved into the Homestead content alongside the story, you'd likely understand where I'm coming from. Until my recent replay of Assassin's Creed 3, I had dismissed Connor as a character, and I will end this part off by once again saying I was completely wrong. Assassin's Creed 3's naval side of the game to me was quite fun. It was something that at the time was completely innovative and brand new. The idea of steering a giant ship to the ocean was not at all in the previous Assassin's Creed games. In fact, the closest thing we had was probably the Ezio and Da Vinci mission in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. The idea of implementing the naval side to Assassin's Creed 3 was done quite well. Of course, it's not wrong to admit that Assassin's Creed Black Flag further expanded upon it and perfected it. But it's Assassin's Creed 3 that made it simple and effective. Now sure, the Nicholas Biddle story side of Assassin's Creed 3 was quite fun to do. I believe there was 4 naval missions that all related to Biddle and his side of the game. But that's not what I want to focus on. Instead, I want to focus on one of the most underrated aspects of this game that I quite literally see nobody talking about. And those are the peg leg missions. Now sure, finding those trinkets was a pain in the ass because who truly enjoys collecting collectibles unless it's solely for the purpose of achieving 100%. But it's those peg leg missions that I felt were underrated. So how it would work is you would find these trinkets for the character Pegleg, and then he'd help you uncover the secret treasure of Captain Kidd by revealing the location of where to go. There's 6 locations you get sent to, and each one was both enjoyable and action packed. Every single location was created with such detail, and it wasn't a quick addition to the game. You could tell Ubisoft took some time on designing these levels. It's almost like this was kind of intended to be a DLC, because you could overlook the Captain Kidd treasure aspect of the game without even realizing it. Some of the locations were Fort Walcott, Oak Island, and the Mad Doctor's Castle. That's just naming 3. I think one of my favourite locations was the Mad Doctor's Castle because I enjoyed seeing the backstory behind it and witnessing the relentless chase of that one individual in his home. Exploring the location in the game was rather creepy, and the fact that it's even based on real life events only added to why I liked it so much. The whole story behind the treasure that Captain Kidd left behind was a rather engaging one, as once again it was kind of based on the real life events of Captain Kidd, who had also hidden his treasure a long time ago that still gets talked about to this day. In fact, I believe it was only recently in 2015 that the treasure of Captain Kidd was found somewhere in Madagascar. Assassin recruits. I was an absolute fan of the assassin recruits back in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and Revelations, and seeing it return in Assassin's Creed 3 got me quite excited. Of course, it's completely different to the way it's set up in this game, which I didn't really mind. Instead of having assassin recruits that had no name, no lore or no backstory to them, Assassin's Creed 3 changed that and it focused on 6 assassin recruits, each with names, dialogues, backstories and meaning to them. The way it worked in Assassin's Creed 3 was that you need to liberate a district and then eliminate the Templar leader of that district, which frees it from their control, enabling Connor to enlist them as an assassin recruit. It's still similar to the previous games where each assassin recruit is able to gain XP to enhance their skills and equipment, but the main change is how simplified the entire system is, which now that I think about it, I was kind of disappointed with. It just seemed like Ubisoft wanted to change it up for the sake of changing it up. It's a simple case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But Ubisoft did the complete opposite and broke it. I do like the fact that each assassin recruit possesses distinct equipment, tactics and a special ability that sets them apart from one another. Take Stefan for example. His skills are not all effective in situations where, let's say, another assassin recruit like Clipper Wilkinson would be effective in. Now, the modern day is always going to be a diversive topic. You're probably watching this thinking, oh gosh, not this shit. But you could also be thinking the complete opposite. I've said in a few previous videos that I loved the modern day in the earlier games. It was a nice refreshing 15 to 20 minute break from playing as Connor, who'd just be obliterating everyone in his path. I think out of the modern days from the earlier games, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and also Assassin's Creed 3 would be my favourites. And now I'm slightly leaning towards this game. I understand the notion that the modern day is pointless and it just gets in the way of you playing as an assassin, which is what you paid for. But for me it's the complete opposite. Now there's 2 particular modern day missions that I liked a lot. The first was the skyscraper mission and the second was the Brazilian stadium mission. These missions were of course different. We were sent to retrieve 3 power sources that would be the solution to powering up the Grand Temple. For the first one, you need to travel to New York City where you'd climb the One World Trade Center and then parachute onto the building that contained the power source. We also get introduced to Daniel Cross, who to me is wasted potential. If you read the Assassin's Creed comics, you definitely know what I'm talking about. The view of the city from on top of the skyscraper was stunning even for an older game. And then there was the second power source where we were sent to an MMA tournament in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And it may just be me, but I really enjoyed the different themes of these modern day segments. We're so used to seeing assassins and Templars in all of these historical settings, so seeing a modern day policeman and a modern day NPC in an Assassin's Creed game gave me this kind of weird feeling. I know I'm just talking out my but I just had to say that. We of course see Daniel Cross once again during the second segment, and we chase him down and take the power source from him. It's pretty clear by now that Daniel Cross in the games is made to look like a complete seeing as Desmond knocks him out twice. Oh, and then there's the third power source, which is a different one. We of course rescue our father William Miles from Abstergo, once again f***ing up Daniel Cross in the process, killing Warren Willits with the apple and witnessing a family hug. And that brings me to the end of Desmond's story. It's a very tragic one and it completely changed the entire modern day of Assassin's Creed for me. I absolutely hate the modern day after Assassin's Creed 3, simply because Ubisoft killed off Desmond Miles. I'm not even going to explain the story of how he dies because we all know how he dies. I just have to rant about the decision of taking out such an iconic character that was not your typical assassin like Altair, Ezio and Connor. Just take a look at the modern day we have now. In Assassin's Creed Black Flag, we don't even have a modern day protagonist. It's like they were on a budget. In Assassin's Creed Unity, there wasn't even a modern day at all, I think. In Assassin's Creed Syndicate, the modern day was just cutscenes. And then there's a modern day now, which is a complete mess. I cannot even tell you what's even happening. Anyway, rant aside, the modern day in Assassin's Creed 3 was enjoyable to me. Although this opinion may be considered controversial, I'm not one to be easily influenced by popular sentiment. Now, despite all the positive things I talked about in this video, not every video game is perfect. Well, except for Red Dead Redemption 2. Oh, and maybe The Witcher 3. Anyway, my point is, despite Assassin's Creed 3 being a pretty good game, there are going to be flaws and I'm going to point those out. For example, the tool selection. I mean, what on earth is this? It's so incredibly complicated to the point where sometimes I could not even be bothered to scroll down all the way to my call horse tool. It's like after the Ezio trilogy, Ubisoft wanted to make Assassin's Creed 3 feel different, but they kind of screwed it up by changing up features that were perfected in previous games. It's not just the tool selection. I also did not like the ending part of the story. It felt a tad bit rushed, and it didn't really conclude Connor's character and even the native tribe side of the game. So yeah, there you have it. I understand Assassin's Creed 3 is a game that is not well received. I used to be a person that disliked this game, but after replaying it recently, I found this game to be a game that's just misunderstood, especially regarding Connor as a character. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and with that said, I'll see you in the next one.